Okay, so yes, you're looking at my legs because it's easier to use my Dremel. I've buffed 2 of these. I'm not super thrilled with this project. What I'll do is I'll post a couple pictures to my Facebook page if people want to see it so they have an idea of, maybe it gives them ideas. Then I'll post it. But again, I'm not super thrilled. It's not the flower I'm not thrilled with. It's just my idea in my head didn't come out as I had intended. So anyways, I'm going to buff this one, and then I'll show you how to do that. So these are my polishing wheels. I got them on Amazon. They come in the pack with these 2. This one's a little more coarse. This one's finer. So I'm going to start with my orange one. I use a Dremel 4000, as I've said before. It has many speeds. I usually polish around 15. If you're new, start at a lower speed. The harder you push, you can remove. So definitely do light pressure. When you hit the lock button, this opens and closes the chuck. So you want to hold the lock button, you want to put your piece in, and then you want to tighten it. Always give it a pull to make sure it's down in there, okay? I'm going to then buff my front and my back and my sides, and then I will switch over to do my other one. So I'm going to do that now. Also, I almost sanded off one of these, so I'm going to put more pressure in that spot to see if I can get that completely gone. And then I'll be back. So let me just clean my lens off. Hang on, it might have some dust on it. Okay. See, now it's about gone. There's a little crack right there in my translucent, and it was like that before I baked it. This one I did on the side when you guys weren't watching after. I'll clean that out with a little toothbrush and water, and the resin should fill that in. That's just a little hole too that's catching a little sanding dust. But before I resin, I'll clean that out. Oops. And I didn't sand all the way up to 2500 like I normally do because I'm not that thrilled with this, so I only went up to 1000, I think. So it's not going to get it as high of a shine. As pieces that I'm really happy with. So again, I choke up like I've showed you before when you're doing your edges. And I'm applying a little more pressure and it will trim all this goofy stuff off the edge. And I think with some regular, depending on the grit of, or the strength of the 2 clays, some of them trim quicker than the others. So in that case, I would take, sorry, I'm bumping the camera. I would take my sandpaper, not that you can see it, and just, because this edge is getting wobbly, I would just clean up my edge a little bit. See if I can flatten it off, because those metal cutters, they have a seam in it. And sometimes it's hard to get it to, on my Dremel, to get that seam out. But even if, like I said, I'm not thrilled with this project, it may give someone inspiration of something they can come up with. So that's why I said I'll ask people and see if they still want to see it, because they might not want to match it. Oh, I just dropped it. They might not want to copy it exactly, but they may want to. It may give them inspiration for another project on there that they can do on their own. So we'll see. We'll see what people say and if they want to see it. I have like almost 300 members on my Facebook page, so and I'm thinking most of them are coming from my YouTube tutorials, and they've made some pretty awesome projects with some of the flowers I've showed you and different canes I've showed you. I'm really happy that it's helping. A lot of people are saying me working out a project on the video, like thinking out loud, is helping them learn how to kind of think out loud as well, which makes me happy. That's my whole intent. I'm not looking to do this to make money. I'm not looking to do this to gain hundreds of or thousands of followers. This is not going to be my day job, you know. I'm just doing this. It started out with the rose cane, just trying to help people accomplish something that I was struggling with myself, and coming up with a way that worked for me that may work for them. And it's okay if your clay bends. I mean, ideally you want it to bend. It's better off bending than being really hard and shattering. Polymer clay is mainly plastic, but my resin will stiffen it right up. Okay, and then I'll hit my lock button and unscrew that. Put this guy in and screw it the opposite way to tighten it. Check it, and then I'll buff this guy. And yes, there's some indents in there where I buffed out that raindrop that I had sanded off, and that's okay, because when I resin, that will fix that. And then what I would do is upstairs in the bathroom or in the kitchen or whatever, if there's any areas that are catching some dust, I would take, this is called a sulca brush or an end tuft brush, but just you can even use a regular toothbrush, and just kind of with some water work into those grooves, and you usually can get out your sanding dust out of there. And then when you resin it, it'll fill that hole in. So if there's any areas on these guys that are catching a little dust, And I'm going to finish these off, you know, I'll finish them off with resin because even though I'm not super thrilled with them, no one knows what I had pictured in my head other than me. So because they're not coming out the way I initially intended, that's why I don't like them. But you may come back like a year later and look at them and go, actually, those aren't bad. Or someone else may look at it and go, you know, I really like that. So just because I'm not wholly, like, totally thrilled with them, I'm going to still finish them off. I probably won't put, I don't know, we'll see, bales on them, but I'm going to resin them and finish them because they're not horrible, that's for sure. They're different, which is what I was trying to accomplish, get something different rather than a little flower like we all do. And I may still decide to do a smear on them. You know, this green in the background, kind of under the translucent, kind of reminds me of what like glow in the dark looks like as a kid, like glow in the dark stuff. I don't think they look bad. Not bad by any means, no. So those are those three. I may get some clay so I can smear it, and I just need to decide, do you want to do black? I don't think I want to do black, but maybe some peacock pearl or something, because that's what I did use in the cane. I used some peacock pearl, or I could use this scrap blue that I mixed up from the scraps of my cane. I think I want it to be darker than that though. So I have this scrap blue. Oh, here's some scrap from that cane. If I mix this up, that may be a good color, a complementary color to do around the edge of it. And then I could also mix in a little black or something to get it to darken it a little bit. It'll go more purpley if I add this in. Let's see, what do I got in my scrap box? In my scrap box I have some of this. I could shave off some of this black to mix in with it. Never throw away your scraps, it's always useful. And again, for smear, I hate using fresh clay. I mean, if you like to and you want it to look super great, go ahead and use fresh clay. I just don't got the money to really do that, so I try to use up as much of my clay as I possibly can. Anything that I've used, and I have these from my the end cane, so I could take some black off of that just to deepen this. And then mix this up and we can smear the sides. So I would be doing Jessima smear. I know a lot of people struggle with it. Sculpey 3 does work better if your clay is, you know, it works better if your clay is soft. And I've heard a lot of people say Sculpey 3 works better for them. What I don't like about using Sculpey 3 for my smear is it doesn't buff up as nicely. For some reason, when you sand it and stuff, you can always see the grooves in it, myself. So from far away you can't, but from close up I don't really love the Sculpey 3 as a smear. So really just get your clay soft, and you got to really work it to do this. Now, another good way to border is by using your extruder. I don't know if I've ever showed you guys that. So you could use you could use acrylic paint and just paint your sides. 2, if you want to see your border, like if you just want to cover up your side, acrylic paint works. You just got to seal it with, you know, something afterwards. An extruder works well with a round tip and then rolling it out, or doing something like the Jessima smear. And if you're interested in the Jessima smear, go see Samantha's Burroughs' tutorials. She's got awesome tutorials on her smear that she came up with, or I don't know who came up with it. I think she came up with it. But let me show you a way you can do it with your extruder if you're struggling with this smear. So let me get my extruder tips. It's got translucent on it. I gotta clean that. extruder does. So let me just wipe my extruder out. So I'll push it all the way up to the end. I didn't clean it the other day after I used it. And then just take, I keep these rags for like junk rags until they're too junk. And just kind of clean it off. And then also clean out your rims in here. Just for the quick use. Also, people wanted to see my tutorial on how to clean an atlas. So I'll show you that in a way hopefully you will be able to put it back together. I also may take off the shields on mine. So let's see what I got. So this is an option here, this little, and I got this extruder on Amazon. If you're interested, I can post the link. It doesn't have the name on it, and I don't remember what the name was, but it was pretty much, I think, the cheapest one on Amazon, and for me it works fine. Now if you struggle with your hands and arthritis and stuff, extruders are really hard for people. They're difficult on your hands. So the softer your clay is, obviously the easier pushing your clay through the extruder tip, and the larger the hole is, the easier as well to get the clay to go through. Now I just wanted to show you the different circles that I have. Okay, so this is an option if your pendant's that wide, right? You could use this. I'm not going to. This circle's too small, obviously, so we're not going to use that. That's my smallest one. Okay, the second one actually might be perfect. It's almost the same thickness of my pendant. This one's going to be way too big, so I'm thinking, because I'm going to roll it through and then I'm going to flatten it, so I'll stretch it out a little bit. I'm thinking my second one will be good for this thickness here. So what I'll do, let me just back my extruder up so I can have a space to stick my clay in. Roll your clay into a little log, stick it down in there, put your tip on. Before I extrude it, I'm going to add a little liquid clay or bacon bond to my sides just to make sure and ensure that it will stick well. I haven't used my bacon bond in a while, so I got to find it. Okay, so just a tiny little bit and spread it around. You want a thin enough layer just to get it to stick, but not to be super slippery. So if you put it on too thick, it'll actually be really slick and want to slide off. So I've already baked these for an hour, but the one thing I've had when I've added borders, the one trouble I have had is when I'm drilling my hole, I've had my border crack. So I will bake this over a half hour. I know clay say 30 minutes, but if you watch Polymer Clay TV on YouTube, she has a thing on strength testing, and most of them at 30 minutes are really weak, the clays. So I will go, even just for this thin border, I'll probably, maybe not a full hour, but probably like 40 minutes. 40 or 50 minutes, depending what I'm doing, if I got time. And yeah, I'll probably show you another thing while I'm waiting for it. So I'll probably do like 40, 45 minutes. But the longer you go, the better. The longer meaning like closer to an hour, the better. So let me just do those two. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to extrude out a piece here. About as long as you'll need to get around your pendant. That will be plenty. Okay, and then we're going to put this through on your pasta machine. Through your pasta machine. So start out at 0 and you just want to flatten it out a little bit, and this will, you could roll out a sausage, but I struggle to get an even sausage like this. So I'm going to start on my thickest setting, and I want to roll this bad boy out, if I can get it down in the hole, until it flattens it some. Now that really didn't do much, so I'm going to go down. My 0 and my 1 on my atlas is like the same setting, so I'm going to go down to a 2. Let's see, I just want it to flatten it. The number 2 really barely flattened it, so I'm going to go down to a 3. Uh-oh. I let go at the end. And that looks about good. Let me see if it's thick enough to fit on my pendant. Now this one's thicker than the other one, so this one I might need the bigger circle. And that will be thick enough right there. So I'm going to just lay it on. And this will give you a visible border. If you don't want a visible border, you know, you can try to do the smear. That works great. I just wanted to show you a different way. Again, go visit Samantha's Jessima Designs. I think actually her Jessima smear is on YouTube for free. It's not a patron thing, I don't believe. And then you'll take your blade. Just kind of smooth out that little lump there. I'm going to lay it down on my tile so it's flat. And any kind of border is a little finicky. But again, we are all our own worst critics. We're all going to judge our own piece more than anybody else will judge it. And then I would take my blade, flatten it off. You could leave it rounded if you like that look. You know, we can sand this later. And I'm just trying to figure out, do I want to leave my front rounded or do I want to kind of frames it in a little bit, you know? There. I can still see my seam here, so I'm going to take my little silicone tool. And honestly, if I leave it rounded, I probably won't sand it. I'll probably just use my buffing wheels on it. That's where my seam was. Like that. Okay, so that's one. Actually, I should pick that back up and put on my tile I'll bake on. Just look at it from all sides and make sure you're happy with it. Okay. And then with this one, maybe we'll smear this one so you guys can see the smear Again, I did not come up with the Jessima smear, so check out her tutorials, but she takes a little log, and I'm not perfect at this, and I do have some bacon bonds. She doesn't usually put bacon bonds. I'm going to wipe as much off as I can. She makes a little sausage, and then she just pushes down with firm pressure. Now, the more pressure you put, the more of the clay you're going to remove each time. So, a lot of times mine get thicker than hers do because I tend to take it all off each time. So what I'll do is I'll make a little sausage and just kind of pat it down, more or less. That works better for me. But you're going to see it more. And then I'll push towards the inside of my piece to get the excess off, even though I can cut it off with my blade afterwards. And this is a messy process. It gets all over your fingers. But it is a nice way to finish up your sides if you don't like your sides. Like a lot of my sides I don't mind, but these ones are quite ugly. So this one I would want something on my sides. So like I said, I take a little sausage and then I kind of pat it, gently smooth it, kind of pat it down on there. I find for me that works better than, and then do a little pull. Some will stick and some you got to go back over a couple times. It's just kind of the way the smear is. And it depends on your piece too. Some will stick better than others for some reason. I don't know why, but. And then just look at it and make sure it's roughly all the same thickness. Like that's a little fatter right there. I'll do this one side and then I'll pause it and do the other side off camera because you don't need to keep watching me do this. But and just a little bit more on that tip. The stickier your fingers get, the harder it is to smooth, so they'll use a different finger to smooth and then one to pat with. A different area to smooth. And the second side's hard because you don't want to mess up your first side, so you got to make sure you don't stick your finger on your first side. I'm trying to look around my camera, which is why I seem to always get out of focus when I'm focused on what I'm doing. So I'm just kind of pulling it to thin it out with my hands. And then if I cut this off or peel it off or whatever, backside of my blade, you can actually see how thick it is. if it's too thick, you gotta squish it some more, so really pull it. And try to make them all about even, you know. Now it looks thick here, but that's only because I have the other petal that's kind of showing through there, so it's not actually that thick. And I'm just pushing it to the back if it's a little thick, now that I got the whole thing covered. So this definitely takes longer, but it gives you a thinner border, especially if you don't want your border really visible, like I said a couple times now. And also it just depends on the day and how I feel and what I feel like doing. If I just feel like playing with clay and I don't really have anything in mind, of a project to do, I might just smear a couple pendants. You know, this is a good thing to do if you just want to play with clay but you don't want to get into a whole thing, a whole project, like you don't got the time to or whatever. This may be a good thing to save for pendants you want to actually smear and just keep some off to the side for when you just want to clay but not get into anything big. And I'm just kind of rounding off the front side so it kind of feathers into my pendant. And my hands tend to be really dry, so in the winter I do struggle with getting a lot of streaks in it. In the summer right now it's not too bad, but as a dental hygienist I wash my hands, you know, before every patient, after every patient, bathroom, lunch, during a patient if I take my gloves off. So just, you know, with antibacterial soap it's really rough on our hands. And if you bevel your blade, you're going to taper that a little bit. So I'm just tilted down a little bit to bevel it. Sometimes your blade will catch your pendant and then just back off. Okay. And this you really don't want to sand much because it's so thin. And on the back here it looks thicker, and that's because when I took my Dremel, I beveled my Dremel in towards the bottom. But on the front, so that's where it looks thick, but on the front it doesn't look thick. See? That was a little wonky right there to me. The rest looks pretty good. So that's smearing it like that. And then if you, like I said, if you do acrylic paint, you're going to have to either apply resin, you're going to have to apply some kind of sealer. It's great, like if you do your Minwax type sealer and dip it, that would work fine, but you have to seal acrylic paint. And the other thing I noticed, so I had a cabochon the other day that I finished with Renaissance wax, and then when I misted myself with perfume, guess what? It took all the Renaissance wax off. So Renaissance wax may be great for a back of a pendant, but to me it doesn't seem good for the front of a pendant as a final sealer. Just because my pendant looked all shiny and beautiful, and then as soon as I misted with that perfume, later that day I was like, what happened to this? And it took it all off and made it really kind of dull again. So I was like, huh, I never... You know, and it's always good to wear your pendants before you sell them, so you know that, you know, at least one of them. You may finish all the same, but at least one of them, so that way you know how they're going to wear for someone that's paying for it, you know. You want to make sure it's going to hold up well for them. I'm just going to extrude the rest of this, and then I'll do this one with a border as well. And then I'll get all of these in the oven. But you don't need to watch me do this again. So I'm going to do this one. And then I'll bake them all, like I said, for about 45 minutes at my 275. And I'll show you when they're done. Actually just wanted to show you this, even though it's similar. So I rolled this one out through my extruder, just like we did a second ago. And then I put it through my pasta machine at a thinner setting, so it was thinner. And I tapped it all the way around on. And now all I'm doing, rather than leaving it as a circle, is I'm kind of pulling it in to kind of really smooth it off. And this will give us a different look as well. Don't worry if it's smearing onto your pendant, because we can clean that up either now with some alcohol or later with some sandpaper in our buffing wheel. Just depends what you want to do. So I'm just pulling that onto my pendant, and I'm going to gently round it so it's more of a smoother line up to my pendant, and I'll show you the difference in just a sec. And then let me shave the back off. It's just kind of a couple different looks you can get with borders. Just rounding the back off too. Just gently with my finger bringing it into the pendant. Just kind of bevel it a little bit. And take your time and enjoy the process. I guess this whole video is just me crafting today. And eventually you're going to be watching. So, you know, sorry it's long. This is just how I craft. And most of the time when you're not watching me, I have the TV on in the background. Or I have my audiobook on. Or I go make lunch. So just enjoy your process. I mean, if you're doing this and you don't enjoy it, or something seems like way too much to you, then I wouldn't do it. You know, just enjoy it. Have fun. Create. Everybody's creations will be different, and that's okay. I mean, if everybody's pieces were exactly the same, I mean, come on, who wants that? So let me show you the difference. So this is a smear. This one's the rolled out thicker border. And this one's on the extruder as well, just thinner, and then I've beveled it into the pendant. So just a couple different looks. And I'll use my buffing wheel just to get off any smears on this one off the front of my pendant later. I'll have to rebuff to get the shine back anyways, but that's okay. It doesn't take very long. It's, you know, not even a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes maybe. I don't know. So I'll do that after these bake. So I'm going to put these in for about, 40-45 minutes, and I will be back. And we'll see how they look with the border on. Okay, so here they are out of the oven. They're all baked for the final bake. And the 3 different borders. And so all I'm going to do is take my Dremel to them and buff them the same way I did. It also will need to be shined up again just because it gets dull when you get it back in the oven. So I will, and I'm happy with the back. You could have added a back when you did the sides, but I'm happy with the back. I think it's fine. So again, not what I intended, but I think they're pretty nonetheless, you know. A couple people on my Facebook page said they want to see it, so I'm going to post it. Might as well, right? I made the video, might as well. So I'm going to buff these up again, and then what I'll do is I'll apply resin to them, and I will show you when they're done. The other thing is I made a version 2 with just the scrap petal canes that I have. Those are in the oven right now, and I'll show you that version in another video, so that way you could maybe try it 2 different ways. We'll see how that comes out too. I'm not quite sure about that one either, but hey, you gotta try sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't always come out the way you want. Sometimes it does, but maybe this will inspire someone to make something similar and it'll come out the way they intend as well. Okay, so I'll see you later, guys. Okay guys, so these are now out of the oven, or out of the UV light, and they're all resined to where I'm happy with them. And what I need to do next is drill a hole and then put a bail on. I'm bringing a bail. So maybe I'll do, what one am I going to wear? Kind of like this one, kind of like this. They're all not bad. Maybe I'll just do this one because I don't wear that shape that often. So this is my hand drill. It's actually really easy to drill through polymer clay and resin. The base twists down here, and that way you can set it in your palm and just twist it in your hand and not have to turn your whole wrist when you do this. Okay, I generally start with my smallest drill bit and work up. So what happens is, if you watch this part right here, if you twist it close, it gets smaller and tighter. If you open it, it gets wider. So depending on what width your drill bit is. I start with my thinnest, and I've seen people just go right to their biggest drill bit. I do not, because I've had some crack when I do that. So that way, you know, in that case, I start with one of my really small ones, and then I work my way up. Now this one isn't as small as normal. I think my little one just broke recently. Oh, wait, maybe it's right here. I did buy a set off of Amazon with spare drill bits. Let me show you that package, which fit in here. I know it fell, so they're all out of whack, but the little ones tend to break, so I don't need all these big ones, but it came in a whole set with a whole bunch of different sizes, which is kind of cool if your little ones break on you, because they probably will. I think one of these is actually smaller here, so I'll start with this one. Just the little ones just do. They're so fine. So, and then you want to find your middle. So sometimes it's easier to look at the back, sometimes it's easier to look at the front. And I apologize, I'm going to move this because my camera's right in my face. Okay, and then I make just a little dot. I don't think you'll be able to see that, but I make just a little impression. And then I know you can't really see this, but I'm going to push straight down on it and just twist. Sometimes I start from the back, sometimes I start from the front. Depends if I have 2 patterns. It can be hard to see through your pattern. But look how easy that was. And I have 2 different kinds of resin on here. So I started with the Easy Dome, and then I topped it with my other Decor ROM because it cures so much faster. So there's one hole there. And I like this. I wear the football shape a lot, so I'm trying to wear different shapes. Let's see, what way do I want up? Maybe this way up. Yeah, so So let me find the center here. That's about the center. Oh, where'd my hole go? Looks about center here. I'm going to do the same thing. So usually I'll do them all, and then I'll go up with each bit. And it really doesn't take much to get through these. And also go through the back side, just cleans up the hole a little bit, and then go up through your sizes. Let's see, this one and this one are about the same size. So this I got off of Amazon. It was probably the cheapest one I could find. It works really well, and it came with multiple size bits. And depending how thick your piece is will depend how wide of a jump ring you need. And depending on the gauge of your jump ring will depend on the size of your hole you'll need. So I have a bunch of jump rings. I have 6mm, 7mm, I think I have 8mm, and then I have 10mm that I used for something else. So I have different size jump rings. These guys aren't crazy thick. Oop, I didn't tighten that all the way. Once you get it started, like I said, it's really easy. To get the holes going. And because I'm using good quality clay, not like Sculpey 3, when I first started and I was using Sculpey 3, it was breaking, and I was like, what the hell? And it's because it's a crap clay. So because I'm using like Primo and Kato and everything, I don't worry so much about these clays breaking. Sometimes they do. I mean, if you put a seam right where your hole is going to be, sometimes you'll break a pendant. But you're less risk of breaking your pendant if you start on your smaller sizes and work your way up. You know, if you make real necklaces, you could drill 2 holes on either side, or with a chain, and you could put a jump ring on either side and hang it like this. And I think I am going to go up to my biggest size. It's not my biggest size, but the biggest size I generally use. Just so my jump ring has areas to move, twirl around. So a lot of people said they wanted to watch this, so I'm going to post it. I wasn't thrilled with it at first, but the more I look at them, the more I actually like them. I think I was just too closely involved with it. I mean, it's hard when you're working on something and in your mind you intended, but my outcome isn't bad by any means. It's just not what I had intended. Okay, so there's that. Let me grab, I'm not sure if a 6mm around will fit. Let me grab my 7mm, because my 6mm are also thicker. My 7 are thinner. I usually go with silver because that's one of the color I wear a lot. I also have black too. I got these on Amazon, so they have different colors. The black one might look good with that. Let me see. This is like a gunmetal color. Might go good with that. I feel like this one might need a bigger guy to match it. Let's see what I got in this box. I got these little boxes at the dollar store. They work really well for let's use that one. I'll do one black and one silver, and then this one, because it's done, I'll put it in my box of done pendants, and eventually I'll sell them, or if someone wants one of these, that's the one so I'll get one of my, let me try a 6mm and see. So I have these bent nose pliers here, and they're my favorite. So I actually bought it at the craft store, and then I really liked them because they fit my hand really well, and they spring open automatically, so you don't have to pull them open. I ordered another set on Amazon. I think they were $7 or $8. It's from Beadalon, and they're bent nosed pliers. So what you want to do now, you could, okay, so this jump ring here, right, it has an opening right here at the top. You could grab it like this and bend it. Now if you bend it like this, you're more apt to make it wonky, so you want to have as much of the plier touching as possible. Okay, so you actually want to grab it like that, and either you could do it with your finger on this side or the plier. You want to twist it front to back. Okay, you don't want to pull it apart. Oh, you can't see that. Twist it front to back like this. I'm sorry it's going blurry, but okay. You don't want to pull it apart because that's not the proper way to open a jump ring. So let me see if I can get this one to fit through. My pendant might be too thick for this 6mm. Oh, I just made it. I just made it. Just moving it back and forth a few times. So that's a little tight right there. But I think it'll work. And then you want to put your bail on. Grab it and then twist it back and close it. Now one of mine's a little taller than the other one, so sometimes I'll just squeeze it down flat just to make it level. Sorry, I just got to get it where I want it. Okay, that's closed. And then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll twist it so that part, the closure is hiding inside, but over time it'll twist around anyways. So there's one. And this one's actually a little thinner than that one, so the 6mm should be fine. So I'll grab a silver one of those, find the opening, I'll grab it there as well, grab it there, and I'm going to twist one forward and one backwards. If I can get my left hand to cooperate with me. Like that. Slide it through. Let's see. I drilled this hole a little further down, so I don't know if this one will actually be able to fit. No. Let me close it back up before I put it in my container. So also, depending how far away you drill your hole from the edge with this border, it'll depend how wide around you're going to need. So these are my 7mm ones, and just by looking, I don't know if you can see that, but this 6mm right here is wider than this. These are thinner. The 7mm, the gauge is thinner. I don't actually know what gauge it is. I just got it off of Amazon and I didn't really. Come on, baby, get in there. Hang on. Now get out of there. So with my borders, I struggle a little bit more to get it through. I had to open that up a lot. And I scratched it a little bit, but I can buff that with my buffing wheel again after. Slide your bail on, grab it, and close it. I just want to show you right here on the side. One is a little higher than the other. Oop. I don't know if you can see that, but so right here, one is a little higher than the other, so then I just grab it like this and pinch it down, and that should more or less flatten them out. Make sure it's 100% closed. Now I do like wider gauge jump rings because they're less apt for bending, like if a little kid grabs your necklace or something. But this is what I have, so that's what I'm using. And there's that one there. And because this is thinner, this one actually moves around a little easier, whereas this one's, my hole almost could have been a little bigger. That one's a little harder to move. But either way, I still think they're really pretty. Let me set them up on my basic photo taking stand that I have here with just a plain leather cord, and I'll show you what they look like. So there's one on just a plain leather cord. You could put it on anything you want. And then let me put the other one on too, and then I can take a picture of both of them on there. Oh, that was backwards. Oops. And there's the other one. So it's kind of a fun project. Wasn't exactly as I intended, but hey, it is what it is. And they're still not horrible. And even if like you do see the back, I don't think the backs are bad at all. So there they are. So I hope this gave you a little inspiration. You know, like I said, it's not exactly what I had in mind and exactly what I had intended for the project itself, but all in all, I'm fairly happy with it, and I totally will wear them. Why does that one? There we go. And, you know, if this inspires you or if this helped you in any way, please like, share. If you have any questions, write some comments for me, and I'll try to get back to you. Other than that, I will see you guys with our next project. I'll give you a glimpse of it. I'm super excited about this next project. You ready? Dun, da, da, da. What do you think? Oh, I'm so excited. And most of this is, pretty much all of this is scrap clay. I'm really excited about these next ones. So these will all probably be posted Monday or Wednesday. So I'm still working on these, but aren't they great? This like faux woody kind of decking look. That's our next one. Anyways, I will see you guys later. If you're interested in joining my Facebook page to show me any of your projects, or if you have any questions or anything, here it is. You have to hit the little search button on Facebook. It kind of looks like a magnifying glass. And you have to hit groups and then Katie's, K-A-T-I-E, ''S. That's how you spell my name, Polymer Clay Friends. And my group has a picture right now of a flower, my red and it's kind of red, orange, and yellow flower, the brain cane one. Please join the group too as well. And I will talk to you next time.